Natasha. Good afternoon to everybody. Thank you, TLN and the Atlantic Council for inviting me to be with you today, and thank you for the opportunity to demonstrate what the corruption in my country truly looks like, but also to suggest an efficient remedy how to stop it. I'm honored to be here among such distinguished speakers, and let me use this opportunity to again thank the Atlantic Council who hosted me in Washington just a month ago. I spent 3 years as an advisor to the Federation President, and during my third tenure, I was appointed to the Securities and Exchange Commission as one of the commissioners. In September 2021, I was confirmed by the Federation Parliament as the Deputy President of the Securities and Exchange Commission. I'm also a protected witness with the State Prosecutor's Office and the State Agency for Protection in 2 major criminal corruption cases, namely Balkans and Profit. Balkans involves Russian illegal takeover of this biggest pharmaceutical company in Bosnia and Herzegovina, with the unfortunate help from some of my colleagues in the SEC. The company was sold to Russian interests by the former CEO of Balkans' Moscow branch through a very clouded offshore account set in Luxembourg, and with the silent assistance of then the Federal Prime Minister Nermin Nikšić, who became the Prime Minister of Federation just recently once again. Several stock exchange violations and murky deals have resulted in many objections that reached public attention. Stocks were purchased by cash for extended period of time to keep the prices low, and that violates basic market logic. Once all stocks were gathered from various small owners into a few ownership clusters, they were sold to Russian offshore account. KYC procedure required from the brokerage company was not conducted, and the SEC never insisted on it, even though it was mandatory. Other interested trading bodies objected that they were in an unfair position in the trading process. But none of these issues and complaints were enough for the SEC to react. And legally, SEC was supposed to. What is more compelling? At that time, an American pharmaceutical company with strong official advisory support from the United States Department of Commerce showed serious interest to legally purchase Balkans shares. That was rejected, even when the political elite in Sarajevo promised to then US ambassador in Bosnia, Patrick Moon, that of course, we want US companies in our country. As of 2015, when the former SEC president was formally named a suspect in this case, and that as a part of criminal organization, he remained in his position, keeping his criminal status hidden from other members of the Commission. The prosecutor's office requires from the SEC to submit opinions and proofs of any irregularity, to oversee and qualify any unlawful activity. The former chairman used his presidential prerogatives to process and directly submit all the relevant information to the prosecutor's office concerning the investigation, stipulating that there were no wrongdoings, while knowing not only that they were made, but also knowing and hiding from everyone that he is a suspect in several scandals. In his effort, the now former SEC president was assisted by the SEC secretary. In all these circumstances, I was a witness and an expert for the prosecution. SEC is an institution of 20+ employees. Those that are corrupted and involved in various illegal activities hold the grip over others. People want to have a job, and it's not easy to get a job in my country. So you opt to close your eyes and play along. Our prosecutors opened several investigations, and in the ring of these criminal activities is well known. But for 10 years, these files sit without indictments and prosecution. You can imagine how many wrongdoings we're talking about, and the case is standing still for over a decade. And that also in spite of the U.S. Embassy in Sarajevo repeated calls for action at the regular meetings with the IH judiciary. You get a conclusion. Some members of the country's political elite are deeply involved. Hence, they are stalling anyhow, rather weak justice system as much as they can, say, so their names do not pop up. I was pushing for prosecution, and 6 months after my appointment as Deputy President of the Securities and Exchange Commission, I suffered 2 attempts on my life. The first one was a miss, but a second one, a month later, left me with 5 bullets in different parts of my body. One of the bullets missed my abdominal artery by 8 millimeters only. How did it all come to this, and how did the SEC become such a rogue institution? The SEC law passed in the Federal Parliament back in 1999 has provided SEC with great authority, complete independence in which the government has resulted from any accountability. Checks and balances do not exist. There is no appeal to the ruling of the Commission, only administrative litigation, and those can take years to be resolved. And in those years, the value of assets in dispute is usually completely lost. SEC may take the license of a private or legal entity, and if the dispute takes years, that entity is without a job for the entire time. Many decide to pay the extortion instead of fighting in court, knowing that courts do not understand the merit and take too long to pass the rulings. Secondly, laws that are under SEC implementation are being banned, extended, and mutilated by SEC bylaws, and in accordance with the interest to increase the SEC jurisdiction that can later be offered to external interests. Again, there is no second legal instance to challenge these bylaws. So much independence was provided and supported by the International Committee with the aim of keeping SEC out of politicians' hands, especially bearing in mind that at the point of enacting the law, much of business structure was still in government's hands. SEC bulletproof independence was not only to politics, but to judiciary as well. No SEC member can be held accountable for any rule or wrongdoing if it was committed in what the law stipulates as good faith. And finally, the area of SEC is so unfamiliar and so much of a grave zone to the politicians and decision makers that no one questions the SEC actions. All these has turned SEC into a rogue power center, exposed to the highest bidder and hijacked by external, often criminal interests. Henceforth, SEC membership has become a highly wanted position by many who seek power without responsibility. Employees taking part in these illegal activities were later rewarded with the advancement in service within the SEC by the former chairman in higher salary, or being compensated for different private expenses, either by the SEC through individual decisions by the chairman or by the private parties related to the former chairman. The SEC commissioners are appointed by the president and 2 vice presidents of the Federation of Bosnia and Herzegovina. These 3 are always from a different political party and with different ethnic background. If only one of them is against the nominee list, decision cannot be made and is postponed. And so it came that after 17 years of previous SEC tenure, due to the inability of politics to appoint the SEC members, the new SEC was appointed in September 2021. That happened only after Sarajevo Cantonal Court forced the former chairman, corrupted, out of office, placing the ban on him to enter SEC premises, to continue or even deepen all the practices of the past. They had only one obstacle: the person not willing to switch to the dark side and who is willing to testify about possible illegal activities, crimes, and wrongdoings. So what is the solution? First and foremost, SEC law must be changed to make SEC members accountable for their actions, and the institution itself must be supervised, scrutinized, and returned to the system of checks and balances. All employees, commissioners included, must be legally responsible for their actions, and in case of clear illegal activity, they should face trial. The impeachment process of the Commission members must be made simpler as another way to hold SEC members accountable. Business entities must be granted right to appeal, and the SEC rulings cannot be taken for granted without a due process when and if needed. You all know how complex governing process in Bosnia-Herzegovina government is. If we wait for the federal parliament to investigate and pass these important changes, we may wait for 10, 20, or even more years. The only hope, therefore, to truly stop corruption and bring SEC back to its initial purpose is for the OHR to impose the law that will amend current flaws. Indeed, it is easy to do a positive impact on our fight against corruption will be tremendous. Encouraged by the interest I have seen here in Washington at the US Congress over this matter, I wrote an open letter to US Secretary of State asking for the US government to support this important fight against corruption and to lend its support to OHR to force change upon our SEC system. US can lend its legal expertise to amend the law, SEC law, according to its and international rule of law standards. This is the only way to be victorious against widespread corruption, and this is why I'm here with you today. Thank you for your attention and for your time.